All right, Graham Platner alleges a conspiracy to take him out. Let's check it out. Welcome to Rob Schmitt Tonight. He was able to carry about 10,000 pounds of baggage for months, but the Graham Platner experience is now over, it appears. The Nazi-tatted oddball candidate had dreams of the Senate and beyond. There were already whispers of a presidential run. Platner was the perfect answer for Democrats after getting trounced by Trump in the last election. Of course, they needed masculinity. What better than a fake oysterman with a deep voice and a dirty flannel shirt? But with that masculinity came a shirtless profile picture on a social media app for little kids, a Totenkopf tattoo, and all sorts of weirdness on Reddit as well. And then the dagger, of course, was the rape allegation by an ex-girlfriend. Platner announced he's dropping out last night, releasing a 12-minute video depicting himself as the victim of some kind of conspiracy. Take a listen.
We believe that for the movement to continue, it can't be me. Amy and I are regular people. We were not looking for this experience. We were not looking to get into politics. I just want you to think about like what you would do as a regular person in a position where a much larger world, large forces were working against you personally to accuse you of the worst thing that a person could do, and it was not remotely true.
So if you watch the whole thing, one of the most noticeable things that you see in the video is Platner consistently says over and over, Amy and I, as if his wife is also running for office. This was never an authentic political candidate. He's brutally media trained. He is an actor from a well-off family posing as a blue-collar hero. He says Amy and I multiple times because that's how you repair a very damaged brand after the various allegations that have come at him regarding women. And there's been a lot. You pander insufferably and pretend your wife is the center of your entire universe, even though we just learned a couple weeks ago that Platner's been screwing around throughout the duration of his very new marriage. That's another piece of his tremendous political baggage, and the baggage that he survived until now. Platner says there are large forces working against him. That's the claim, that there's a huge conspiracy to take him out of this thing, that are accusing him of the worst things that a person can do. It would be actually interesting to hear him expand on that claim, because he says there's some powerful entity that's forcing his ex-girlfriend, who agrees with him politically, to make a rape claim. Tell us more.
We live in a political system that is not built for normal people. It is a system that is built structurally to make sure that movements like ours cannot flourish. That if they begin to succeed, they can be crushed. A corporate media system and the political establishment got to act as judge, jury, and executioner. Accusations are supposed to be the beginning of things, not the end.
So the big machine is taking Graham Platner out. One big question you have to ask: where has this machine been for the last year, as Graham Platner has been as untouchable as Trump? Somehow he was the victim of a massive conspiracy by the permanent state while also surviving non-stop scandals until this point. That's a hell of a claim. He is right about one thing: an accusation should not end a campaign. It should be the beginning of an investigation. But in this case, it seems when it comes to the voters, accusations like the one that's just been leveled against him hit a little different when you've already showed us your Totenkopf tattoo and your pervy profile picture on a social media app for, again, children. Graham Platner became a bridge too far in a state with a pretty tough opponent for Senate. But he can act. The one thing Graham Platner had was the ability to connect with voters. He did that well. He is a good actor. Despite a radical platform demanding the end of genocide in Gaza and single-payer health care here in the United States. Imagine that in the U.S. Just look at England. Platner talks about the campaign as if he was assured of victory in November against Susan Collins, if only the Democrat establishment had not taken it from him.
We were asking for real democracy, and we did it the right way, and we won. And now they are not going to let us have it. Not if it's me.
A reminder, the Democrat establishment that he's making this claim against right now, that was so threatened by his message, carried him valiantly through multiple scandals over the past year, so much so that it blew our minds to watch how they just blindly said, no matter what comes his way, we are with him, because they wanted that Senate seat so badly. If the establishment was so threatened by Graham Platner, ask yourself, why were Ro Khanna and Jewish Senator Chuck Schumer carrying him? Why were they so dismissive of a guy that had a Nazi tattoo? All right, Senator Jim Banks joins us now. Sir, it's good to have you on. Let's start with Graham Platner's excuse here for what's happened to him. He says there's a powerful force that is stopping his political revolution because he's trying to bring power back to the people. The only thing that I can think is that that entity, whatever he claims that it is, sure did give him a lot of grace through a lot of scandals, including a Nazi tattoo. He was going to survive all of that and potentially win, but now he's gone. What do you make of that excuse?
Well, I'm disappointed that Susan Collins isn't going to run against Graham Platner. I mean, what a dirtbag the guy is, and everybody knew it. The Democrats knew it, the Republicans knew it, the voters in Maine knew it. It's unbelievable that the Democrats would nominate him to be their candidate. But then again, you see the Democrats nominating flawed, left-wing, radical, communist candidates all over the country. But Platner would have been easy to beat. He'll be replaced by someone else that Susan Collins will beat. All of the signs were there, from a Nazi tattoo to what he said about a Purple Heart veteran that didn't deserve to live. In and of itself, that's something that should disqualify anybody in America from being a United States senator, to talk about veterans in that kind of way. He demeaned our law enforcement officers. He's a defund the police, anti-federal law enforcement Democrat, which frankly is becoming the mantra of the Democrat Party all over the country. This is not my grandpa's Democrat party, but Platner, very flawed. The Democrats will put someone else on the ballot who will lose as well, but he would have lost by quite a bit if he would have stayed on the ballot, and the Democrats know that.
Don't forget him shirtless in a bath towel as a profile picture on an application, on a social media application made for little kids. That one, I mean, it's just like how many more things? How much did he survive before a rape allegation finally took him out? I can't believe that is real. That one, to me, was almost as insane as the Nazi tattoo. That even exists was just so incredible. There's a lot of questions over whether or not this man was actually vetted at all, because as you said, how could anybody miss all of this and try to run this guy as a senator? Punchbowl News interviewed the president of the Senate Majority PAC. They work to elect Democrats in the Senate. Here's what he had to say.
Did you guys vet Platner before or during this process at all?
Well, yeah, the answer is yes. And there were concerns. And certainly Leader Schumer expressed concerns early on. You know, this was part of the need to find an alternative candidate. There were concerns right on, but he wins the primary. He certainly was not only a veteran, but somebody who was making a sound populist argument, and but his paths caught up with him.
Okay, your response to that.
Well, it just goes to show that Chuck Schumer doesn't run the Democrat Party, certainly not the Democrat conference in the United States Senate. Bernie Sanders does. And Bernie Sanders vetted Graham Platner, and Graham Platner passed the Bernie Sanders test. So that just goes to show that the communist socialist wing led by Bernie Sanders and these radical Democrats own the Democrat Party. They anointed Platner. That's who they wanted. He was their movement socialist communist candidate.
Yeah.
And the Democrats nominated him. I mean, that's just the fact of the matter. Only after it became painfully clear to the Democrats that they were going to lose badly to Susan Collins,
Right,
did they yank this guy off the ballot. And by the way, he hasn't taken his name off the ballot yet. I mean,
No,
the deadline's on Monday, and he's going to play games up to that point to try to influence who the Democrats choose to replace his name. We'll see how that plays out. I have a feeling that we haven't seen the end of this story yet.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, what they really needed was an answer for 2024. They ran Kamala. They couldn't work. They needed some masculinity. They thought this guy had it all. He's a socialist, but he's a strong guy, and he's an oysterman, and he had all of these, a lot of it was manufactured and a lot of it was fake, but he kind of he was a perfect actor for the moment, and it all just fell apart. Senator, good to see you. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, Billy Bob Faulkingham, Maine House Minority Leader, joins us now. Matt Gagnon of the Maine Policy Institute. Good to have you Mainers on with us tonight. Billy Bob, I'll start with you. Where are we at tonight in your state? What does it look like over the next couple of weeks? Who does Susan Collins face?
Wow, what's happening up here is truly amazing. Yeah. You said it right earlier. This guy is an actor, but there's a lot of other people in the Democrat Party that are actors as well. This man never wanted to fight the oligarchy. He wanted to become part of the oligarchy. And unfortunately for him, his polling numbers didn't have him meeting that threshold. So I think that the Democrats have really devised a new way of politics, which is where when someone is polling badly in a must-win seat, like Biden was for president and like Platner was in this battle to take out our Senator Susan Collins, they're going to replace you. And that's what happened here. It's as simple as that. Well, these guys are a bunch of actors. Yeah. Everybody knew what a dirtbag this guy was a long time ago. I'm not even in this campaign. I'm not even paying attention to these sort of circles. And I knew the accusations against this guy almost a year ago. Don't tell me that Chuck Schumer didn't know about it. Don't tell me that high up Democrats didn't know that.
But then why would they? I mean,
if this guy get through the primary before they unleashed it on him.
I don't. You sound like you agree with Platner's assessment of it. But then my question is, why would they have carried him through all of that hell? I mean, there's so many scandals.
I agree with parts of it. I don't agree with him in that he denies what he did. I agree with Rassica. I believe that what she's saying is true. But what I believe is that Platner knows he did that, and that other people around Platner knew that he had done that. They waited until he got through the primary because the polling numbers weren't working for them, and they wanted to put somebody better on the ballot.
Matt, let me bring you in and get your assessment of this.
Yeah, it's probably the most predictable scandal that you could have imagined. I mean, to Billy Bob's point, most of these rumors that we've heard about Graham Platner that we're just now hearing the actual stories about have been known in Maine political circles for months. So this is something that the Democratic Party knew. This is something that Platner's own team knew. In fact, half of these scandals actually came from Platner's team doing opposition research on itself and actually identifying a lot of these problems. And ultimately, they ended up ignoring it, and they didn't care because in the end, it was all about the poll numbers. They thought that he was actually one of their best chances of winning this race against Susan Collins. And the only thing that matters to them is that majority and sticking their thumb in the eye of President Donald Trump. So.
And those poll numbers lasted until you come up with a rape allegation in a party that is, counts fully dependent on the female vote. As to what Billy Bob just said, Matt, is that this is not an authentic candidate. I've realized that a while ago watching him. He wasn't at all. Regarding the video that launched his last campaign, or his campaign last August, I should say, this is from Axios. They billed him as an oyster farmer, a title most of the media repeated without scrutiny, but as of early as August, he told ideologically friendly outlets that he makes little money from selling oysters, and it's not how he makes a living. Again, he was selling the oysters to his mom, who owned a restaurant. That's pretty much it. It seems like he's lived a pretty cush life, Matt, and he's performing as this struggling blue-collar Mainer.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think that was apparent from the beginning. He makes about $5,000 per year selling oysters, which is not a living in any stretch of the imagination. Ultimately, the thing that was the most suspicious about him from the very beginning was the fact that the moment he announced, he had spreads in the New York Times and other elite media outlets that were ultimately saying this is a great guy. They've got photo shoots with him on his boat. They had a marketing plan for how to create a working class hero. And that's exactly what they did. And the tragedy, I think, is that the Democratic Party bought it so quickly.
Yeah.
They didn't have any level of scrutiny or skepticism. They just said, okay, that must be true.
I think that's going to be kind of the future, you know, in some cases of politics, is let's just create the perfect candidate that we know can win. Let's just manufacture them. And I mean, it's kind of brilliant in a way. It's very fake, but it is brilliant in a way. I got to leave it there, guys.
And I'm sorry, but you yourself said it too here, is that, you know, you look at 2024 and what went wrong for the Democratic Party. He is, at least on paper, an antidote for every single one of those things that they were weak with.
Exactly.
He's perfect to market.
He's exactly what they needed. How perfect that he came along. Good to see you guys. Billy Bob Faulkingham, Matt Gagnon, thanks so much. Billy Bob, I didn't know they made Billy Bobs in Maine. That sounds very Texas to me. It's good to see you. Thanks so much. All right, next up, Rubio stays tough on immigration, deporting visitors who think they can freely hate this country while touring our nation. And then later in News from the Left, another insufferable Hollywood star.
Stop killing our children, son of a...
Information. Truth is power. Is freedom. Is money. Is health. Is Newsmax. Millions watch it. So can you. Newsmax is real news for real people.
For years, I was hiding my drinking. I'm the type of drinker that I don't just have one. I didn't want to feel that urge anymore. That's what brought me to War Health. I'm a better dad. I'm a better husband. I just have a more grounded and present life, thanks to War Health.
Text Newsmax to 710-710 to learn more.
You didn't just buy your land, you earned it. And for more than 30 years in this country, Mahindra tractors have earned something too. The trust of landowners who know what real toughness looks like. With powerful engines that work harder, heavy steel builds that last longer, and intuitive controls that are easier to use. Mahindras are made for the folks who earned them. Mahindra, outworking the field. For a limited time, get 0 for 84 and 2,000 cash back on the 1100 and 2100 series.
You know, when I came in here, I was at a 15, and that's no joke. My spinal cord was almost severed. I feel like I'm gaining my freedom. My pain level of the day is nothing.
No pain now? No. Okay, feels good? Yep.
And I can feel my legs waking up and getting feeling back in my leg and my foot I haven't had in a year and a half, 2 years. I feel like I'm getting my life back.
Venati succeeds where others fail.
Stop, check this out. Our most advanced performance frame, Talon, is out. It's a bestseller. We just got it back in stock, and I want to show you a little bit about it. These come with our signature lost and broken protection, and you can try them risk-free for 30 days. Check them out at shadyrays.com.
Welcome back. The Trump administration continuing its full blitz on immigration. Secretary of State Marco Rubio moving to send home a Kuwaiti national who came to the U.S. on a student visa in 2014, attending San Jose State University. They're stripping this young man's green card for supporting terrorism and wishing death on our president. As we know, for far too long, our guests in this country have assumed that they can behave any way they want, and they've been allowed to do so by past administrations. That is over now. Tariq Al-Qudari posting cartoons on his social media. You can see a brown-skinned figure there attempting to light a fire on top of the American flag. Yeah, he's a guest in our country. Also lamenting reports of a deal between Iran and the U.S., posting a photo of Netanyahu and Trump saying he hopes they both perish from a comet striking them just before they take their final breaths, suffocating on white phosphorus and their own blood. Again, the behavior of people that are visiting our nation. Mark Morgan ran Customs and Border in Trump's first term. He joins us now. Robby Starbuck, host of the Robby Starbuck Show. Good to have you guys here. Mark, it is absurd that this kind of behavior from our guests has been tolerated in the past. I'm glad to see it ending.
Yeah, Robert, look, I think absurd is the right adjective to describe it. I want to make two things very clear. Common sense, crystal clear. One, the Department of State and the executive branch, they have the right by law to revoke the LPR status of anyone in this country once they become, what, in a layman's perspective, I'm going to say, once they become an enemy of the state. They have the right to do that. The second thing that is a common sense perspective that we should all share is to bestow the U.S. citizenship on any foreign-born person is an absolute privilege. It is not a right, and it can be and should be taken away. And this example is a quintessential example, is when it should happen.
Yeah. Robby, Rubio is also setting his sights on Antifa as well, inviting ministers from more than 60 countries to discuss the resurgence of transnational far-left terrorism next week in Washington. According to the Washington Post, which of course hates the idea, the administration weighing using counterterrorism tools and foreign terrorism labels for Antifa, and bureaucrats evidently here in the U.S. and in other places are very much up in arms over this idea. They still want us to believe that Antifa is nothing. It's just it's not a coalition of any kind. We should fear nothing about it.
Which is hilarious, because if you look out at the EU, the real problem here isn't that Antifa doesn't exist. It's that Antifa is running many of these governments. I mean, you had a recent election in France where an avowed Antifa member won their election and is in France's version of Congress. You know, so this is a group that is growing in terms of their power within the EU and other parts of the world. And that's the real reticence that you're going to see from some of these allies as to actually joining together with Rubio and fighting this scourge. And, you know, if you think about it from that context, we have that same issue here in America as well, where in the blue states, you're seeing Antifa burrow into the major institutions, and the side effects of that are going to be dire.
Yeah, these are the anarchist, communists, whatever you want to call them. These are the worst. And for some reason, there is some kind of a soft spot in our Democrat Party for these people, and it's hard to imagine. Mark, I want to talk about this judge in Wisconsin, Hannah Dugan, the one who famously helped an illegal alien facing 3 domestic violence charges escape from ICE in her own courthouse. This was an egregious display against the federal government and our laws by a judge. She gets no jail time, no probation, measly $5,000 fine after an 86-year-old Clinton judge gave her leniency, stating that she's just a good person who was upset over our immigration policies. So does that mean, Mark, that if you're just upset over something the government's doing, you have the right to behave any way you want?
Apparently so. And egregious is the right way to describe what happened. Because, look, her actions went well beyond the typical judicial activism that's plagued our country as of late. Meaning, you know, she didn't just, during court proceedings, twist and disregard the law to further her personal ideologic and political beliefs. She went a step further, and she knowingly, intentionally, and violated the law. So she didn't just erode the principles of our Constitution, the rule of law, by her judicial activism. She actually shattered the public's trust in the entire justice system by knowingly and intentionally violating the law. And that should have been taken into consideration during her sentencing. It should have already also been taken into consideration that she's a judge. Yeah. She knows the law better than 98% of the American people. And Rob, the one thing that was just astounding to me that wasn't taken into consideration is she showed no contrition. No. Even after being convicted, she was still on the pulpit justifying her actions, but none of that was taken into consideration. In my opinion, she should have served not just some jail time, but real extensive jail time. That's the only thing that would have sent the right message here.
Yeah, it's something. You know, if they raise taxes and you're angry about that and you start embezzling from the IRS, are you justified? Just let me off the hook. I was angry. You raised my taxes. I didn't like what you did. Amazing stuff. Robby Starbuck, Mark Morgan, good to see you guys. Thanks so much. Coming up next, the trans boyfriend of Charlie Kirk's alleged killer is heard in court for the first time.
He started crying a little bit and said he wishes he hadn't done it.
As America's largest private funder of brain aneurysm research, we support AI that enables earlier detection and saves lives. 1 in 50 Americans has a brain aneurysm, and ruptures strike without warning. Our early investments supported research that helped tech companies develop AI tools, enabling physicians to find aneurysms before they rupture. AI helps doctors act sooner and accelerates life-saving progress. Now is not the time to lose our competitive edge.
Guys, wake up. Testosterone boosters are useless if they're not also fighting cortisol, the hormone that makes you soft after 40. Ageless Male Max does it all with patented KSM-66 to boost testosterone and balance cortisol. Get Ageless Male Max at these fine retailers.
Your mouthwash routine just got a whole lot smarter. Use Smart Mouth Activated Morning Mouthwash with B12 for all-day bad breath prevention. Guaranteed. If your mouthwash isn't activated, it's not Smart Mouth. Kickstart your morning. Get Smart Mouth Activated Mouthwash with B12.
Some wireless companies say that they stand for something. What exactly do they stand for, and why won't they say it out loud? Let me tell you what Patriot Mobile stands for. They stand for the lives of the unborn. They stand for the Second Amendment and the right to protect yourself and your family. They stand for our veterans and first responders who sacrifice so much for our freedom. Make the switch to Patriot Mobile today and support a company that doesn't just say they stand for something, but one that stands for the things that matter the most.
You might take something for your heart or your joints. So why wouldn't you take something for the most important part of you, your brain? Prevagen for your brain.
Hi, I'm Karan. I've been taking Prevagen for 4 years now. I noticed a significant change. I feel confident.
Prevagen for your brain. Every day presents a new opportunity for you to take care of your brain. Supplement your good brain habits with Prevagen. Prevagen for your brain.
My dad has never been in better shape. He had a stroke and passed away. He had a life insurance policy. Ethos.com. In 10 minutes, you can be covered with life insurance.
Check your price today at ethos.com.
Hi, I'm Mike Hammond with Signal Relief. If your back bothers you day after day, you know it doesn't just affect your back. It changes how you stand, walk, sleep, and how you feel about yourself. Maybe you smile through the grandkids' game, the grocery store, the yard work, or the family trip, quietly counting the minutes until you must sit down, or maybe you just miss those moments altogether. I know how frustrating it is when your body starts making decisions for you. And that's why I'm proud to introduce Signal Core, our new back support system built specifically for everyday backaches. More technology means more relief, and Signal Core has twice the technology as the original patch, and it comes with our money-back guarantee. It's targeted drug-free back support that you can wear through the day. Try Signal Core today by going to signalrelief.com and order your Signal Core.
They tell you to optimize, to hack. But what if you were never broken? Armor Colostrum, the first food of life, reawakens your innate brilliance. 400 nutrients, 4 seconds, 1 daily revival.
Did he talk about what he had done? Didn't go into detail. I just asked him in person if what he said was true the night before, and he said it was. He started crying a little bit and said he wishes he hadn't done it.
Something there. All right, that's Lance Twiggs, the trans lover of Charlie Kirk's alleged assassin, Tyler Robinson, revealing the moment that he says Robinson confessed and said that he wished that he hadn't done it. Never before seen footage shown to the court during day 4 of the preliminary hearing today in the Kirk assassination. One of the prosecutors interviewing Twiggs, who looked a lot different than he does in the images of him as a furry and as a trans kid, spoke a lot different too. Twiggs given limited immunity in exchange for his key statements in this case, discussing his relationship with Tyler Robinson, the planning that Robinson put into the assassination, like engraving bullets, and his political views. Take a look.
I think we started dating 2 or 3 months after he moved in.
Do you know when he left the apartment on September 10th?
I don't know an exact time. I just know he left early. I heard him leaving, and he just said he had a long drive to work that day, so he was leaving early. He had said he was planning to go hunting with his family, and he asked me for if we had a Dremel, because he said he wanted to engrave messages on bullets. That looks like him in terms of the shoes he's wearing, the sunglasses. It definitely, especially the bottom, the last 2, definitely do look like him. Usually if he did talk about politics stuff, it was relating to Trump or current policies.
You see there, they must have spooked him pretty good because he turned on his lover and gave prosecutors everything that they need to make this what should be an open and shut case. The court also read text messages between Robinson and Twiggs, Robinson admitting why he did it and hoped to keep it all a secret. Take a listen.
Why did I do it? I had enough of his hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated out. If I'm able to grab my rifle unseen, I will have left no evidence. Going to attempt to retrieve it again. To be honest, I had hoped to keep this secret till I died of old age. I am sorry to involve you. You weren't the one who did it, right? I am. I'm sorry.
Something else as we come up on a year since the assassination of Charlie Kirk here in just a couple months. We have a special guest tonight. Actor Ricky Schroder joins us now from the courthouse, best known for his role in the 80s sitcom Silver Spoons. He and his wife, Julie, are there to support the Kirk family, and we appreciate you both coming on with us. And Ricky, I'll start with you. What you saw today, the never-before-seen footage of Twiggs, your thoughts, and what is it like being in that courtroom?
Well, Rob, it's obvious that Tyler Robinson is guilty. The evidence is overwhelming. His own confession to his lover reveals that he did in fact kill Charlie Kirk. And we were driving over here watching it live on YouTube, and the courtroom was full, so we listened to the entire day's testimony and saw all the evidence live. It's a sad, sad state of affairs, what's happened, and all the people that are in denial, that still believe, other podcasters like Candace that are, in some sort of mental collapse, that when the evidence is so overwhelming and in front of your eyes to see the truth.
Well, and Julie, I wanted to ask you about that. You're in the courtroom today as well. The judge denying a request from Erika Kirk seeking to publicly show all of this evidence to the public. Her attorney stating it was in an effort to show full transparency and try to combat some of these ridiculous conspiracy theories around Charlie's death that have to be so hurtful to Erika Kirk and to his family, to his parents. That got denied. But as somebody that's followed this and is there in support of the family, how hard it must be to deal with so many people not believing what is right before their very eyes.
Yeah, I mean, it's just sad that so many people are painting the Kirk family as something that they're not, which is just a grieving family who lost the most important person in their life. It's all these people that believe the conspiracies, and, it's almost like people that are, it's like Masonic almost in a sense, like they're looking for hidden knowledge, that they think that they know more information than the facts that are given to us. Yeah. So it's just sad.
Ricky, have either of you gotten a chance to speak to the Kirk family to say something?
We haven't. I looked for them yesterday and today, and I wasn't able to interact with them. I did run into Brandon Tatum out here and spoke with him. But no, we haven't had a chance to sit down. But, the real story, it seems to me, that's developing here is not whether Tyler Robinson is guilty or not, but the millions of people who refuse to believe the reality and the groupthink that social media has infected so many millions of people with, and how do we combat that?
Yeah, how do you do that? It's such a great point, and it's such a, as if it wasn't disturbing enough what happened here. The lies and the aftermath of it are so hurtful. We got to leave it there. Ricky Schroder, Julie Schroder, thank you both so much for joining us from the courthouse in Provo. We appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Our pleasure.
Okay, good to see you.
Thank you.
All right, coming up, the media's desperation to attach this image to our national identity. Rick and Ed, up next. Everybody's reporting the same stories, the same spin. You turn the channel, it's always the same. But not us, we're different. We report the real news, no spin, just the facts. Turn to us, and you won't turn back.
Tune in to Rob Schmitt Tonight on Newsmax.
He's still king on candy, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm Arthur Lee, inventor of LifeVac, the first and only FDA-authorized anti-choking device.
All these people you see, over 6,000 of them were saved because LifeVac was there when it mattered most.
Most people don't realize that on average, 14 people die every single day from choking. Every 5 days, one of those victims is a child.
Don't wait until it's too late. Protect your family with LifeVac. Go to lifefact.net or call 877-543-3822.
Kevin Sorbo here, and I have an important message to share. The government needs more money, your money. If you owe the IRS back taxes, they can garnish your wages and levy your bank accounts. They can even seize your retirement or take your home. Don't let the IRS target you. Call the professionals at Tax Network USA. Their tax lawyers and enrolled agents are experts in powerful programs that may even help you eliminate your tax debt.
Call for a free consultation or visit tnusa.com.
Hello, everyone. It's President Donald J. Trump, and it's Trump time. Check out this red beauty. It's one of my new watches. Wear it proudly on your wrist, and everyone will know exactly what it's for, who it represents. It's really going to be something special. It's for your favorite president. Get your watch today at gettrumpwatches.com. These make a great gift. It's Trump time.
Yeah. 2 p.m. still works great. We'll put our best guy on the job.
You said you were the best guy.
Also the sales guy.
You should check out Capitus. You can get a fast business loan and hire some help.
Customer service, please hold. Loans are complicated.
Not with Capitus. It's easy to apply, and there are no hidden fees.
I got this.
Stop waiting. Start growing. Get the funding you need at Capitus.com. You should probably call HR.
You're looking at HR.
Since 1990, the lightweight Craig Cat has meant quality, affordable boating. Florida Sports Magazine called the Craig Cat an absolutely brilliant breakthrough in watercraft design. With the stability and comfort of a large boat, but the fuel efficiency and portability of a small boat, Craig Cat has put the fun back in boating. Craig Cats are also available in both electric and hybrid models. Call Craig Cat now, toll free at 877-999-4CAT, and step into a Craig Cat.
Millions of Americans rely on a statin to reduce cholesterol, but statins can deplete CoQ10 levels. I recommend Cunol CoQ10 with 3 times better absorption and the #1 cardiologist recommended form. It helps replenish what statins deplete. Cunol, the brand I trust.
It was supposed to be the perfect gateway. Instead, it became an open door for cyber criminals. But that threat stops right here. Built by Americans for America. Ceasefire defends our homes, our businesses, and our government. Don't let them compromise your identity. Get our all-in-one solution today. Visit PCmatic.com.
It is not, generally speaking, unruly.
The dehumanizing rhetoric of Adolf Hitler is once again alive and well.
This version of Biden is the best Biden ever.
A white nationalist group carried American and Confederate flags in our nation's capital.
And this striking image, a black passenger seated on the D.C. Metro, surrounded by members of the group.
A stark and disturbing display.
When I see those folks marching around saying, "Reclaim America," I see fear.
It's basic bigoted punk loser behavior. Sad young white guys with little going on in their lives.
And these images capture it very clearly, the implications of the divided soul of the nation.
Imagine trying to take these kinds of people seriously as they report on stories like this. A Reuters photographer last week captured this picture depicting America exactly the way the media wants you to think the whole country is, right? A victimized black woman sitting on a train surrounded by white supremacists in masks. Yes, they want you to think that is the United States. In reality, this woman is sitting safely on a train, totally unthreatened by masked Patriot Front members in Washington, and they may very well be white supremacists. But this is not a microcosm of American society. This is actually a total anomaly, and also far less offensive than, say, this next picture or video of a woman who was stabbed to death on a packed train car by a multiple offender who was heard saying, "I got that white girl," as her blood dripped off of his knife. 2 images. One of the women here was slaughtered for her race. The other didn't even report a condescending comment on her train ride home. Which one of those pictures offends you more? Well, if you're a host on The View, we certainly know which one. Take a listen.
That, for me, was a defining image of modern America for Black Americans. There are times when I walk into a community and I see American flags all over the community, and I suddenly feel unsafe because there is a section of this country that has co-opted the American flag, and they equate being an American or an American flag with white supremacy.
Imagine being an idiot that gets paid millions of dollars to talk on television and then trying to play the victim with a straight face. That's the Sonny Hostin experience. Newsmax hosts Rick Leventhal and Ed Henry join us now to talk about this. Rick, good to see you. Your reaction to this image that they so desperately tried to plaster this as the image of what the United States is in 2026.
You know what it is, Rob? It's what you don't see in that photo. You don't see them harassing that woman. You don't see them bothering her. You don't see them attacking her. You see them peacefully riding a train with her. Now let's take a look at a group of Palestinian activists surrounding a single Jew, or a group of far-left radicals surrounding a single Republican with a MAGA hat on. And do you think the picture would look like that? Or do you think it would be a very different picture? It would be the group attacking that person. We've seen this time and time again. For the media to make a big deal about that is ludicrous.
Yeah, well, I mean, isn't that the funniest thing, is that nothing actually happened, and yet they blew it up into a much bigger deal than any of the examples that you just gave, where you'd see far more vile behavior. And I'm not defending the men that were on that train, not at all. But the truth is that they just all went on their way and did their thing. She didn't even report being harassed in any sense, not even a comment from such a horrible moment as the media displayed. Ed, your thoughts?
Well, the fact that Sonny Hostin as well is basically saying if she goes into a community with pickup trucks and American flags, she knows there's white supremacy and she doesn't feel safe. It's beyond absurd. It's offensive to so many Americans to be saying that, especially around America 250. It's absurd. And even more absurd is that ABC is trying to make the case before the FCC's Brendan Carr, and you've talked about this, and we've talked about it on the show, that this is a news program, The View, and that they're hearing all sides and all that, when it's just a bunch of liberal garbage, and that proves it.
Yeah, I think she
If
lives
I
up
could just
in,
add, Rob, the American flag is a symbol of this country. It's a symbol of liberty and freedom. And what makes this country great, the greatest in the world, is why everyone wants to come here. For her to, speak disparagingly about the American flag and making her feel uncomfortable tells you a lot about the person saying it.
Yeah, it's all BS, too. She lives in one of the whitest neighborhoods, one of the whitest suburbs of New York. She lives very differently than she talks about this country. We can certainly tell you that, just like Don Lemon. Ed, I want to talk about this new movie, Citizen Vigilante. We talked to the director last week. It stars Armie Hammer as a vigilante that's fed up with the decimation of Europe. He's an expat that now lives there. This is a really bold and really honest look at what the political elites have done to Europe and a lot of these European countries with the migration, the crime, the desperation of the people that live there. And he is kind of their voice and is kind of fighting back for those forgotten people. It's an amazing movie. It's very satisfying to watch, I can tell you that. A source, though, this week told Puck News that the star of the movie, Armie Hammer, was appalled by the final cut of the film. There was a claim that the first time he saw it, he was in tears. The source telling Puck News that Hammer found it to be hateful and disgusting, despite the fact that he starred in it. Well, that made me curious, because it didn't really align with what we've seen so far. Well, the creator of the movie, Uwe Boll, the German director and creator of the film and the writer, called that report a flat-out lie, telling TMZ it all stems from the criticism about this movie and the fact that everybody wants this movie to be hated. They want it to fail. He revealed that Armie Hammer actually attended the distributor's screening of the film at the American Film Market, participated in multiple interviews promoting the film, led the Q&A at the film's first public screening in Los Angeles after seeing it there as well. So this is just a flat-out lie designed to destroy the movie, Ed.
Yes, because a couple things. Armie Hammer is trying to make a comeback in Hollywood, which is obviously desperately liberal. So my suspicion is he now realizes that while the film is truthful and strong, as you suggest, and is revealing what's really going on in Europe, the liberals in Hollywood don't like it. So he's probably not going to get another film as he launches his comeback. My second thought is Trump was right. He's the one, Donald Trump, has been warning about the mass migration and what Europe is doing to themselves, people within these countries. And he made the point again at the NATO summit. And they don't like to hear it, but it's the truth. and they can't stand the heat. It's what Harry Truman said, right? Get the heck out of the kitchen.
That's exactly. Rick, you wonder if perhaps Hammer's press people put that out there to try and soften his image to liberal Hollywood, to say, oh, well, he did the movie, but he's not a fan of it. We're hoping that you'll give us more roles.
There were people going, hey, Army, the people are a little upset about the tone of this film. Maybe you should act like you didn't really know what it was about, and you're upset about it so you can get more job offers, because based on his acting, and I'm no film critic, but I did watch that movie.
Yeah.
I thought he was kind of wooden. I wasn't a big fan of his role.
Yeah.
But I did like the underlying tones of the underlying story. I did like that, but not so much.
Okay, all right, that's a fair. I thought it was good. I liked him. I liked the movie. I sat there and watched it, and I was like, oh my God, this is so fun to watch. It's finally like the kind of movie you actually get a kick out of,
It's stuff you don't always see in films, that's for sure. That sort of conservative undertone is rare in movies these days, and I did appreciate that very much.
Felt like a 70s film, yeah. Ed and Rick, good to see you both. Thanks so much.
Good to see you.
Appreciate it. All right, an absolutely tragic case of suicidal empathy up next.
Where's the admission desk at your hospital? You may need it sooner than you think. It's the middle of the night and you, your spouse, or your child is sick, high fever, can't keep anything down, and getting worse. Now you're waiting in the ER, and everyone gets seen before you. And when I finally see you and order prescriptions, you still have to wait for your pharmacy to open and hope they have what I prescribed. This is the medical emergency kit. It's stocked with essential medications, including amoxicillin, generic Z-Pak, and ivermectin. Now you have the right medications when you need them. And it's why I and so many of my colleagues have medical emergency kits. It's like having an urgent care and pharmacy in your home. Just fill out a brief online medical intake and your kit, prescribed by a licensed provider, is shipped to your door. Here's how to order.
Order your kit now and save $45. Visit urgentcarekit.com/news. That's urgentcarekit.com/news.
You're careful about what you bring home when shopping, especially when it comes to feeding your family. Shouldn't your investments work the same way? At Timothy Plan, we offer a wide selection of mutual funds and ETFs that can help you allocate assets without compromising your values. From technology to healthcare, energy to real estate, our funds are not only diverse but uncompromising to your values. Timothy Plan funds are filtered to avoid companies involved in abortion, pornography, human trafficking, and other harmful agendas. What you invest in should reflect what you stand for. Are your investments bearing good fruit? What's in your portfolio? Contact your financial advisor today to find out, or contact Timothy Plan directly at 1-800-TIM-PLAN to discover more. Before investing, carefully consider the fund's investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses of the investment company. This and other important information can be found in the fund's prospectus. To obtain a copy, visit timothyplan.com or call 800-846-7526. Read each prospectus carefully before investing. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
If you want to be ready for summer, now's the time to call Sono Bello. Sono Bello helped me target the spots that diet and exercise never could.
Sono Bello gave me my bikini body back.
At Sono Bello, our expert surgeons remove stubborn fat permanently and tighten loose skin in one visit with less downtime. Every treatment plan is personalized for your body, your goals, and the results that you want to achieve.
Walking around this summer with my shirt off, it's the best decision I've ever made.
I see my spark back, and I am so glad that I went with Sono Bello because they have truly changed my life.
With over 50,000 five-star reviews, Sono Bello is America's #1 cosmetic surgery specialist.
I love wearing a bikini again and not having to cover up.
See what's possible for you. Schedule your free consultation today.
I got my summer body at Sono Bello. Get your summer body back. Do this for you.
And our flexible payment options make it easy to get started today. Call now or go to sonobello.com for your free personalized consultation. It's your life. Live it beautifully.
Welcome back. Time now for news from the left. We start with a tragic case here of suicidal empathy, maybe one of the best examples we've seen. A New York mom moves to Ireland with her 13-year-old daughter and is beaten to death inside of her home. 43-year-old Jamie Carney found dead by her daughter. Imagine that. Multiple head wounds inside their home in Killarney in Ireland. Blood stains splattered around the room. The Irish Sun revealing that the man officers are looking to speak to is Middle Eastern. He launched an asylum bid after arriving in Ireland in 2024. The murdered mom, police say, likely met her killer at an anti-war protest, and the mom was well known as an activist in pro-Palestine groups. Police say she was romantically involved with her killer. Next up, Jasmine Crockett on her exit from Congress. Take a listen.
You see, a lot of haters got a lot of things to say about me and my race and how I ran it, but the reality is that there was a lot of racist, not a lot, it was racist. It was a racist race. It is what it is, right? But we live in America, as y'all are celebrating 250, okay? We know what this country is.
I lost, so it's racist. Was it racist when you won? Probably, according to you. Next up, insufferable Hollywood actress Jennifer Lewis, tearing up as she describes a crisis that is absolutely not happening.
Stop killing our children, son of a. We love our children and the color of their skin. You twisted monsters are going too far. Don't you know your own children will suffer if you keep magnifying this civil war?
I don't know who this lunatic is. Apparently she's been in a lot of movies. If she would read some standard statistics, she would learn that her own children are the ones killing her children. It's one of the biggest problems we have in this society, is what's happened to the culture in that community, in the inner city community. And she's, I don't know what that is. She just puts that on the internet. I guess it's a race thing, a claim. I don't know. She's nuts. I can tell you that much. Next up, 6 years later, California state workers are finally heading back into their offices in downtown Sacramento for their first full week. 6 years later. That's how long it takes to get them back to work if you work for the state in California. Of course, these mostly useless state workers are very angry about this. They got very comfortable doing nothing all day in their underwear and getting money. One worker telling the California Post, the feeling around the office is a little bit off, right? People are a little bit, not necessarily just working remote, the fact that the governor's office is able to make demands and make decisions on behalf of all of the state employees. Adding, what if he's able to tell us to work Saturdays and Sundays? What if he says your new schedule is 7:30 a.m. to whatever, right? I mean, I would love to see Reagan just fire, like you did in the 80s, just fire everybody. Just fire them all. And so we're going to rehire all these positions. We don't want any of you. Newsom's order applying to roughly 108,000 employees that have all been working from home and answering 2 emails a day in their underwear for the last 6 years while probably making $100,000. Isn't that amazing? And then they complain. They have to go back to work. And finally, across the pond in the UK, a new report showing the rapid growth of the United Kingdom's Islamic population. This is always terrifying every year when it comes out. According to the Office for National Stats, the name Mohammed is the top baby name in England and Wales in 2025. Yet again, 3 years in a row. A total of 5,957 boys were given not just the name Mohammed in the UK, but also that specific spelling. There's like a few different ways to spell it, but just that spelling, 5,957. It rose 4% from last year. All right, another classic Trump moment after the break.
When you're in the news business, it never stops. News is always breaking, and it's my job to get you the news, no spin, no BS. If you don't believe us, just watch us.
Watch Finnerty, weeknights, only on Newsmax.
My dad has never been in better shape. He had a stroke and passed away. He had a life insurance policy. Ethos.com. In 10 minutes, you can be covered with life insurance.
Check your price today at ethos.com.
I'm Elmer Heinrich, owner of Immuno 150, and I'm disgusted. Now, we do not sell on eBay, but 240 counterfeiters are offering counterfeit Immuno 150 on eBay. We copied our bottle label and even our website. Some of their junk has been known to contain talcum powder, baking flour, even ground up dirt. Zero nutritional value. None of it contains the 70 minerals that made Immuno 150 famous. These counterfeiters are after your credit card, and thousands of credit cards have already been hacked after they were used to purchase counterfeit Immuno 150. Now, we do sell on Amazon, but be careful, because some counterfeiters come on there too. The counterfeit websites look just exactly like our website. So to be safe, I suggest that you order Immuno 150 by scanning the QR code on the screen or by calling our toll-free number on the screen. Do this So you know you've got the original Amino 150 with 70 plant-derived minerals instead of talcum powder or dirt. Thank you and God bless.
If you're concerned about inflation, government debt, or the value of the dollar, you're not alone. Right now, more Americans are turning to physical gold and silver to help protect their savings. I'm Dean Heskett, President and CEO of Swiss America. For over 40 years, our family-owned company has helped investors protect their wealth through economic uncertainty. But when gold prices rise, something else happens too. New dealers suddenly appear overnight. Big promises, no track record, and too often no accountability. Swiss America has been serving customers since 1982, delivering physical metals, fair pricing, and straight answers. No pressure, no games. If you're considering adding gold or silver to your portfolio, call or text Swiss America and request your free report on protecting wealth with precious metals. When you work with a firm that stood the test of time, you know who you're dealing with today, tomorrow, and years from now. Our experienced team will answer your questions with no obligation. Call or text the number on your screen or visit our website. Experience matters. Trust is earned.
There's no way a mouthwash can prevent bad breath for 12 hours.
You're right, Bill. Mouthwash can't, but this is dentist-developed Smart Mouth Activated Mouthwash.
Activated?
Yeah, if your mouthwash isn't activated, it's not Smart Mouth. See, this plus this activate for 12 hours of bad breath prevention, guaranteed. Try it. You won't have bad breath in the morning. Good night, Bill.
Get dentist-developed Smart Mouth today. It's the smarter mouthwash, available at these fine retailers.
Ever worry that you're drinking too much? Take back control with Or Health. Or Health provides access to medication proven to help. A daily pill to drink less, or to quit drinking altogether. Text Newsmax to 710-710 to learn more.
Almost half of women runners say safety is their biggest concern. Majority of us have to constantly change routes, start times.
Instead of thinking of my pace, we worry about being followed, unwanted attention, and stuff that is simply scary.
Imagine this banana was a less lethal device, capable of incapacitating an attacker, letting you get to safety.
At Byrna, we don't sell bananas. Go to Byrna.com to find how you can always safely make it to the finish line.
And finally tonight, at Iran's funeral for the Ayatollah this week, they rolled out a massive red banner reading, "We will kill Trump." Okay. It's not how it's going so far. The president asked by a reporter if there was a threat from Iran on Air Force One that led him to ditch his new Qatari jet and take the old Air Force One back to Washington from the NATO summit in Turkey. Here was the president's answer.
Were you aware of any credible threat by Iran against Air Force One?
I have a threat all the time. I'm number one on their list before you. But if I go, you go, right?
But was there a specific
so perhaps someday you want to change professions.
If I go down, the press pool is coming with me, he says. All right, that'll do it for tonight. We'll see you back here tomorrow night. Finity's up next.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.